Pain relief is important. I don't think that anyone who has been in pain would disagree with that. When you're hurting, you want the pain to stop. You want to move freely. You want to sleep better. You want to get back to normal life. But one of the biggest problems I've seen over the years is that pain relief is often mistaken for recovery. A treatment might calm symptoms. A stretch might make something feel looser. A massage or manipulation might help for a few days. But if the deeper pattern is still there, the pain often returns. And when that happens, people are often told directly or indirectly that they are broken, degenerating, aging, weak, fragile, or just unlucky. I wrote the book Beyond the Pain because I think people need a better conversation than that. Welcome to Beyond the Pain, the podcast that explores what it really takes to break free from chronic pain and reclaim your life. I'm your host, Leigh Brandon, and someone who's spent over 2 decades helping people get to the root cause of pain that no one else could explain. Whether you're dealing with long-term back issues, joint pain, nerve discomfort, or mysterious symptoms that just won't go away, this show is here to help you go deeper. Because beyond the pain, there's clarity, strength, and power waiting for you. Each week, we'll uncover the physical, emotional, biochemical, and energetic causes of pain and how to transform them. Let's dive deep into this week's episode. In this episode, I want to do something slightly different. Rather than bring on a guest, I want to take you behind the scenes of my new book, Beyond the Pain, a whole person approach to understanding pain and participating in recovery. This is not going to be a sales pitch. Of course, I would love people to read the book when it comes out, but this episode is really about the reason the book exists. Because after nearly 3 decades working with people in pain, one pattern has shown up again and again. People often arrive having already tried a long list of approaches. They've had scans, consultations, exercises, stretches, treatments, injections, medications, supplements, and sometimes even surgery. Some of those things may have helped. Some may not have helped at all. Some may have helped briefly, only for the pain to come back. And when the pain keeps coming back, people naturally start to wonder, what am I missing? That question is really at the heart of the book. Not what is the magic one treatment, not what is the one exercise everyone should do, not what supplement fixes pain, but what is the wider pattern that could be influencing this person's pain, and how can they begin to participate in changing that pattern? One of the things that has always struck me is how hard many people with chronic pain have already tried. There is sometimes this assumption that if someone is still in pain, they must not be doing enough. They must not be stretching enough. They must not be doing their exercises. They must not be thinking positively enough. They may not or must not have found the right practitioner yet. But many of the people I've worked with have done a huge amount before they came to see me. They've been to the GP. They have seen physiotherapists, osteopaths, chiropractors, massage therapists, orthopedic consultants, trainers, nutritionists, and sometimes psychologists or counselors. They have done exercises. They have followed plans. They have bought devices. They have changed mattresses. They've tried supplements. They've rested. They've pushed through. They've stopped pushing through. They've tried almost everything they can think of, and yet the pain is still there. So I think it's very important that we do not frame these people as failures. Often they have not failed. Often the model has failed them. And what I mean by this is this. If the model only looks at the painful body part, it may miss the wider system that is contributing to the pain. If someone has knee pain, of course, we need to look at the knee, but we may need to also look at the foot, the hip, the pelvis, the spine, their movement habits, their digestion, their inflammatory load, their stress levels, their sleep, their breathing, their emotional history, and how safe or unsafe their nervous system feels. That does not mean the knee is irrelevant. It means the knee may not be the whole story. And that is one of the big reasons I wrote the book. I wanted to give people a way to step back and ask, what else might be involved here? Often they haven't failed. Often the model has failed them. Let me give you an example of what I mean. So one example that really illustrates why I wrote Beyond the Pain is a client called Amelia. So Amelia had lived with recurring neck and shoulder pain for several years. Eventually, she was diagnosed with cervical spinal stenosis, affecting multiple levels of her neck. Her pain was persistent and severe. She had a lot of tenderness through the neck and trapezius muscles, and over time it began affecting far more than just her neck. It affected her confidence, her daily comfort, and her overall quality of life. At one point, surgery was discussed as a possible option, which understandably caused her a lot of anxiety. I first met Amelia when she attended a postural screening I was doing in a health club, and from that initial screen, it looked as though there may have been more going on than simply a neck problem. So we went through a more detailed assessment. Structurally, there were clear opportunities to improve support, stability, coordination, and movement efficiency. So we began with targeted corrective exercises to help her body function better mechanically. I also recommended she see a NUCA chiropractor to support upper cervical alignment because I felt that could be an important piece of the puzzle for her. Over time, she began to improve. Her strength improved, her flexibility improved, the recurring neck pain started to reduce, and perhaps just as importantly, she began to feel more physically capable again. But here's the important part. Amelia did not only have neck and shoulder pain. She also reported persistent fatigue, bloating, intestinal discomfort, and headaches. Those symptoms were present from the beginning, and they suggested that if we only focused on her neck, we might miss a big part of the picture. So we also looked at her digestion, nutrition, and metabolic health. A health appraisal questionnaire and metabolic assessment suggested her system was under strain with patterns consistent with poor digestive resilience, possible fungal overgrowth, and dietary imbalance. So along with the corrective exercise and upper cervical support, we also made nutritional changes based on metabolic typing principles. We focused on improving her macronutrient balance and reducing the amount of refined carbohydrates in her diet. And as those pieces came together, things changed more broadly. Her energy improved, her digestion improved, the bloating and abdominal discomfort resolved, her headaches reduced, and as her structural capacity and metabolic stability improved together, her overall well-being shifted. Now, the point of this story is not that one technique fixed Amelia. It was not simply the exercises. It was not simply the chiropractic adjustments. It was not simply the nutrition. It was the fact that we stopped looking at her as a neck problem and started looking at her as a whole person. And that is one of the central messages of Beyond the Pain. Persistent pain does not always come from one source alone. Structural factors, metabolic health, stress, lifestyle, nervous system sensitivity, and the right professional guidance can all interact to shape both pain and recovery. When we recognize that, we open up possibilities that are often missed when we only chase the painful area. When someone is given a diagnosis like cervical spinal stenosis, it can sound very frightening. Even the language itself can feel intimidating. The word stenosis essentially means narrowing, and when that narrowing is described as being in the neck, close to the spinal cord and nerves, it's very easy for someone to think, this is serious, my neck is damaged, I need to be extremely careful, I may never be right again. And of course, in some cases, spinal stenosis can be serious and does need appropriate medical evaluation. I'm not suggesting we ignore that either. But what I am saying is that the way a person understands that diagnosis can dramatically affect how they feel in their body. If Amelia believed her neck was fragile, dangerous, or on the verge of disaster, that belief alone could change how she moved, how she held tension, how confident she felt, and how much fear she carried around normal daily activities. So part of the work was not just simply physical, it was helping her understand that while the diagnosis mattered, it was not the whole story of who she was, what her body was capable of, or what was possible for her. This is something I think is very important. Medical labels can be useful. They can also help identify pathology. They can help guide appropriate care. They can help rule things in or out. They can help practitioners communicate with each other, and in some cases, they can be essential. But a label can become limiting if it becomes the whole explanation. If someone says, I have cervical stenosis, that may be factually true. But if the meaning they attach to it is, my neck is broken, my life is now limited, and nothing can change unless I have surgery, then that label has become more than information. It has become an identity. And once a diagnosis becomes an identity, it can shape behavior. People may move less. They may protect more. They may avoid activity. They may lose confidence. They may begin to interpret every sensation through the lens of that diagnosis. So with Amelia, the aim was not to deny the diagnosis. The aim was to put it into context. Yes, there was a structural finding, but there was also a whole person with strength, adaptability, digestive symptoms, fatigue, movement patterns, nutritional influences, emotional responses, and a capacity to improve. That distinction matters. A diagnosis can be part of the map, but it should not become the prison. When surgery is mentioned, it often changes the emotional landscape for a client. Even if surgery is only presented as a possibility, the person may hear it as confirmation that something is seriously wrong. They may think, if surgery is being discussed, my body must be in a very bad state. And that can understandably create fear. Now, sometimes surgery is necessary. Sometimes it is absolutely the right thing to do. So I am not anti-surgery. In fact, I wouldn't be here if surgery didn't exist. In fact, I wouldn't have lived to 8 weeks old. But when surgery is discussed, especially for the spine or neck, it can affect how someone relates to their own body. They may become more guarded. They may stop trusting movement. They may feel vulnerable. They may feel as though their body is unstable or unsafe. And that emotional response can feed into the pain experience. So in Amelia's case, part of the importance of taking a broader look was that it gave her another pathway to explore before making a decision about something invasive like surgery. It gave her a way to ask, what can I improve? What capacity can we rebuild? What other influences might be contributing? And can we change the environment around this pain before assuming that the only option is surgery? Amelia first came to me through a postural screening, and that is worth explaining. A postural screen can be very useful, but it's not the whole assessment. It can give clues. It may show asymmetries, compensations, muscle imbalances, breathing pattern disorders, pelvic torsions, spinal curvatures, head position, shoulder position, or how the person habitually holds themselves. But posture is not destiny, and posture alone does not explain pain. What a postural screen can do is raise better questions. Why is the head sitting forwards? Why is one shoulder higher? Why does the rib cage sit that way? Why is there torsion in the pelvis? How does the person breathe? How do they move when they squat, bend, twist, walk, or reach? What happens when we assess stability, mobility, coordination, and load tolerance? In Amelia's case, the postural screen did not give me the answer. It simply suggested that there was enough going on mechanically to justify a deeper look. That is an important distinction. A screening is the beginning of curiosity, not the end of investigation. One of the key moments in Amelia's case was recognizing that she was not only presenting with neck and shoulder pain, she was also experiencing fatigue, bloating, intestinal discomfort, and headaches. Now, if we look through a very narrow lens, we might say, well, that's separate. The neck pain is one thing, digestion is another, fatigue is another thing, the headaches are another. But in a real human body, those things may be connected through the overall load on the system. Digestive stress can affect inflammation. Inflammation can affect tissue sensitivity. Poor digestion can affect nutrient absorption. Nutrient status can affect energy production and tissue repair. Fatigue can affect posture, movement quality, motivation, and recovery. Headaches can relate to the neck, but they may also be influenced by hydration, blood sugar, stress, digestion, hormones, or tension patterns. So when those symptoms show up together, I do not see them as random, unrelated complaints. I see them as clues that the body may be struggling more broadly. And if the body is under physiological strain, then purely mechanical care might not be enough. That does not mean that mechanical care is wrong. It means the person may need support on more than one level. This is one of the biggest lessons from Amelia's story. It was not a case of deciding whether her pain was structural or metabolic. It was both, and possibly nervous system and emotional too. And I think this is where people often get trapped. They're told it's your posture, or it's your diet, or it's stress, or it's your spine, or it's your nervous system. But very often, persistent pain is not caused by one isolated factor. It's the interaction between factors. For Amelia, there were structural issues that needed attention. Her body needed better support, better stability, better coordination, and better movement efficiency. But there were also digestive and metabolic issues that appeared to be affecting her energy, comfort, inflammation, and overall resilience. So the work became more comprehensive. We were not choosing between the body structure and the body's chemistry. We were supporting both. And when both improved, her overall experience changed. That is the whole person model in action. I think one of the most important takeaways from Amelia's story is that recovery often comes from stacking supportive influences. People understandably want to know, what was the thing that worked? Was it the exercise? Was it the Nuka chiropractic adjustments? Was it the nutrition? Was it reducing refined carbohydrates? Was it improving digestion? Was it feeling more confident? And the honest answer is that it was probably a combination of all of them. That is not always exciting as saying, here is one magic thing that did the trick. But it's much more realistic. When several stressors are feeding into the pain experience, several supportive changes may be needed to shift the system. One change may reduce mechanical strain. Another may improve energy. Another may calm digestion. Another may reduce inflammation. Another may increase confidence. Another may help the person move better. And together, those changes can alter the trajectory. So Amelia's story is not a story about a miracle technique. It's a story about looking more broadly, asking better questions, and supporting the body from more than one direction. That is exactly why I wrote Beyond the Pain. As you listen to Amelia's story, you might ask yourself, have I been looking at my pain as one isolated body part problem, or could there be a wider pattern influencing it? When I first started working with people in pain, like many practitioners, I was very focused on the physical body. And to be clear, I still think the physical body matters enormously. Biomechanics matters, posture matters, movement quality matters, strength matters, tissue health matters, breathing mechanics matter. The way someone loads their joints, their spine, their muscles and connective tissues matters. I do not want this episode to sound as though I've moved away from the body. I have not. But what changed over the years was that I began to see that the body is not separate from the rest of the person. The musculoskeletal system does not live in isolation. It's influenced by the digestive system, it's influenced by the endocrine system, it's influenced by the immune system. It's influenced by sleep, hydration, blood sugar, emotional stress, trauma, belief systems, environment, and the person's sense of safety. So the question became, how can we possibly understand persistent pain if we only look at one layer? That does not mean we throw away biomechanics. It means we stop pretending biomechanics is the whole picture. And that is really where the book came from. It's a result of years of trying to make sense of what I was seeing in real people. People are not machines. They are living, breathing, feeling, adapting organisms. And pain is not simply an output from a damaged body part. It's an experience produced by the whole person. One of the most important shifts I hope the book helps people make is this. Pain is not simply a measure of damage. Pain is a protective experience. Now, that does not mean pain is imaginary. It doesn't mean it's not real. It doesn't mean it's all in your head. Pain is real. But the reason pain can be so confusing is that it's not a simple damage meter. You can have significant tissue changes on a scan and no pain, and you can have severe pain without obvious tissue damage. You can have pain that moves around, flares under stress, improves on holiday, worsens after poor sleep, or changes depending on what you believe is happening in your body. That tells us something very important. It tells us that pain is influenced by context. And if pain is influenced by context, then recovery has to involve more than chasing symptoms. We have to ask better questions. What is the body trying to protect against? What inputs are increasing threat? What systems are under strain? What patterns are keeping the nervous system on alert? What does this person need in order to feel safer, stronger, better nourished, better rested, and more able to move forwards? This is the kind of conversation I wanted to open up in the book. When someone is in pain, quick fixes are appealing, and I understand that completely. If you've had pain for months or years and someone says, do this stretch, or take this supplement, or try this one technique, it's very tempting to hope that this will finally be the thing that sorts it out. And sometimes one intervention can make a big difference. But for many people with persistent pain, the issue is not that they have not found the one magic thing yet. The issue is that there are multiple factors interacting. Their movement may be part of it. Their nutrition may be part of it. Their stress physiology may be part of it. Their sleep may be part of it. Their beliefs about their body may be part of it. Their emotional history may be part of it. Their inflammatory load may be part of it. Their environment may be part of it. And if that is the case, then they do not just need another isolated tactic. They need a framework. They need a way to organize the puzzle pieces. And that is what I've tried to create with Beyond the Pain. Not a book that says, here's the one thing everyone must do, but a book that says, here are the major influences that may be shaping your pain. Here is how to start thinking about them. Here is how to participate in your own recovery. Because recovery is not usually something that is done to you. Support can be incredibly valuable. Skilled practitioners can be incredibly valuable. Treatment can be incredibly valuable. But at some point, the person in pain has to become an active participant. That does not mean blaming them. It means giving them back some power. So what is the book actually designed to do? First, it's designed to help people understand pain differently. Fourth, it's designed to help people become better participants in their own recovery. This is a major theme for me. I do not want people to feel dependent on practitioners forever, including myself. I want people to learn how their body works. I want them to understand the major influences on their pain. I want them to know what questions to ask. I want them to become more confident, more informed, and more responsible with their own health. And fifth, I hope the book helps people feel less hopeless. Because when pain has lasted a long time, it's very easy to think, this is just me now. This is my life. I have tried everything. But often when people say they've tried everything, what they really mean is they've tried everything within a certain model. They may not yet have explored the whole person picture, and that is where new possibilities can open. I want to be very clear about something, because it's easy for this to be misunderstood. When I talk about personal responsibility, I'm not talking about blame. If someone is in chronic pain, the last thing they need is someone pointing a finger and saying, this is your fault. This is not what I mean. People end up in pain for many reasons: injuries, stress, trauma, illness, poor advice, environmental factors, lifestyle patterns, work demands, emotional burdens, and sometimes just years of accumulated strain. So responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for where you are. It means recognizing that you may have more influence over where you go next than you have been led to believe. This is a very different conversation. Blame says you caused this. Responsibility says you may be able to participate in changing this. And that is the spirit of the book. It's not about shaming people, it's about empowering people. So if I were to summarize this episode, I would say this. I wrote Beyond the Pain because too many people are stuck in a cycle of temporary relief, followed by recurring pain. I wrote it because pain is too often reduced to a body part, a scan finding, or a diagnosis. I wrote it because people need a whole person framework that includes the body, the metabolism, the nervous system, emotions, stress, lifestyle, and meaning. And most importantly, I wrote it because I want people to understand that overcoming pain is not just about finding someone to fix them, it's about learning how to participate in their own recovery. If this episode resonates with you, my new book is called Beyond the Pain, a whole person approach to understanding pain and participating in recovery. If you would like to be the first to know when it's released and get access to a free chapter, you can join the waiting list at bodycheck.co.uk/book-waitlist. That's bodycheck.co.uk/book-waitlist. So that's it from me for this week, but be sure to tune in, same time, same place, next week on Beyond the Pain. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Pain. If this episode resonated, please follow the show, leave a review, or share it with someone you know who's been struggling. And remember, pain is not permanent. With the right insights and support, you can turn it into power. Until next time, stay open, stay strong, and keep moving beyond the pain.